Hey everybody, and welcome to the VeryVera show. I'm Vera Stewart, and I'm so happy you decided to join us today. And you know, Veterans Day is coming up right around the corner, and I thought what could be better than to plan a meal that veterans would love to eat, as well as the entire family, and invite two of my favorite vets to join me on the show today. So I'm very happy to introduce you to Jeff Foley, retired Brigadier General, and Chief Tom Male, who are going to join me in the kitchen. Gentlemen, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad to have you. And Mel and I, Chef Mel and I, are going to get started on a pot roast. But before we do, I'm going to send you, General Foley, down to the end of the counter, and you're going to get started on some potatoes. How does that sound?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, perfect. Well, great. Well, Chief Male, tell us what you got going with this pot roast over here.
Well, before I start on the pot roast, I'd like to say that Augusta has a unique connection with Veterans Day. In fact, it was President Woodrow Wilson in 1918 that started the first Veterans Day. It was called Armistice Day then, and of course he grew up in Augusta. So, and then later on in 1954, President Eisenhower changed the name to Veterans Day. And so it'll always be on the 11th hour, 11 o'clock, 11th day of the 11th month. So November 11th.
Well, that's a fun fact to know. All right, so we've got that already seared before we came on the air, and it is beautiful. We went to the fresh market. I got the butcher to cut that special for us, and it just looks great.
We seared it off this morning, and now we're going to, today, and we're going to
spray that pan.
Pot roast was one of the favorite dishes for the troops.
Well, there's nothing like meat and potatoes. You know, they all say the way to a man's heart is with meat and potatoes. So we're going to put a lot of pretty things in it. You know, this is a wonderful meal that you probably prepared quite a bit for the troops. But, you know, I know my husband and my boys love when Mama's making pot roast. So we thought this would be fun, and we want to also make sure that when we put it together that it's really beautiful. So I'm going to get you to start with the seasoning on, and I'm going to try to make this look as pretty as I can. All right, so what have you got there?
I've got some ground black pepper. We're going to put it all around. We're going to first get some on the meat here.
You know, and as you do that, I love to suggest so many different things to go in a pot roast. I mean, it's literally a meal in itself. So I'm cutting some green cabbage. Do you like to put cabbage in yours?
Absolutely. Cabbage, the mushrooms, celery, and the carrots. Sometimes we even put some Brussels sprouts in there.
Wow, I love those too.
You know, this is a great dish for feeding the soldiers, because what we could do is we could do almost the whole dish in one pan. And when we're out in the field, we would have large roasting pans, and we could really make the meal very easy that way.
Well, and you told me earlier that you've served so many places over your years. How many years is it?
I spent 25 years feeding the absolute best customers in the world.
Oh, no kidding.
Soldiers are just the best people in the world, and it was such a pleasure and such an honor to feed them. And I tell you.
Okay, now what was that?
This is some French onion soup mix. I have some kosher salt here. Okay. And what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that the vegetables get seasoned as well as the meat.
Gosh, this is smelling
looks
great.
Fantastic.
And this is, you know, this is a great meal also to take when you just need to do something nice for somebody. Take a meal, but it's going to be especially nice if you invite your favorite vet, or if your favorite vet actually lives in the house with you. So we're going to keep working on this during the break and get this finished off, but I want to let everybody know that we're going to be doing a contest. If you come back with us after the break, we're going to tell you a little bit more about a special opportunity to honor your vet. So when we come back, we're going to get started with General Foley down on a sweet potato and white potato au gratin.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Okay, let's keep working. Welcome back, and I'm so glad you joined us today. And I have with me General Jeff Foley, retired Brigadier General. And Jeff, you and I met in a very awkward way, rather awkward. You were a speaker for an economic summit, and I was in the audience, and I was so taken by your presence and your address and how the command of the audience that you took that I jumped up out of my seat. Do you remember it?
I do remember.
How could you forget? But you have done so much for our community, and I'm just very honored to have you with us today. And he said that Chief Mel knows a lot more about the kitchen than he does, but he's getting ready to learn, right?
Well, my wife always gets a little nervous when I enter the kitchen unsupervised.
Well, you're being supervised.
I got it.
Beth, I'm watching him every move he makes. All right, so while we were away during the break, Chief Mel and I got the pot roast finished, and he seasoned the rest of the vegetables. Doesn't it look so pretty? And we put a can of cream of mushroom soup on the top, and then we covered all the vegetables with a can of Rotel tomatoes, which is going to give it a little bit of a kick. And then finally covered it with aluminum foil, and it's now in a 325-degree oven for 2.5 to 3 hours. It's just hopefully going to melt in our mouths. Now, you and I are getting ready to do a Yukon Gold and sweet potato au gratin with a lot of wonderful cheeses. So prior to coming on the air, we got the onions sauteed, and these are Vidalia onions. We love to use our state onion when we're making these sorts of dishes. It's got a little bit of a sweetness to it. So we're going to use a 2-quart casserole dish, and I want you to butter the dish for me so nothing will stick to it. Then as you do that, Jeff, let me describe the cheeses that we're going to put together. We've got a Gruyere cheese, we've got a Romano cheese, and then we've got an Asiago cheese. Those are going to be mixed together. Wow, that's going to be, you know what? This dish sometimes has a tendency to stick to the pan, but not on your watch, right? We got that pan right ready. All right, so you're going to mix those up. I'm going to get over here on these onions, and they're nice and sauteed. It's about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to add a clove of mixed garlic, and then I've got a little bit of chicken broth. I've got some black pepper, some salt, rosemary. How do these ingredients sound?
Looks wonderful.
Are you getting hungry?
I am.
And then we've got heavy cream. And I'm just going to let this cook through. Now we're going to start the magic. So we're going to layer the potatoes, and prior to coming on, I used a mandolin to slice those, and you were warning me that I probably should have been using the safety feature, but maybe I've been doing this so long, but it'll be just my luck to get cut. But when you're using a mandolin, I certainly recommend that you use the safety feature. But those just turned out so nice. You could really, unless you were very artistic with a knife, you would not be able to get those sliced quite that thin. All right.
So am I doing all this right, Miss
You're
Vera?
doing all of that right.
Okay.
And you know, meat and potatoes, do you love it?
Oh, we love it. I tell you, the troops love it. It's was always one of our favorite ways to spend time in the field is chow time.
Well, and as Chief Mel was mentioning, it's just those are the kinds of things that I'm sure over the years he got very good at knowing exactly what it was that was a treat for them and getting familiar with which menus the troops like the most. Okay, now you're going to do a layer. And we're doing this in thirds. We're going to have 3 different layers. So you're going to use a third, and you just use your hands, a third of that cheese to cover. And I want to point out that this is going to look like it is filling that pan to the brim, but the one that I did yesterday, now you can do another layer of tomatoes, was literally way above that pan, and it just cooked down. I've got a good almost an inch below there. All right, so this mixture, once it comes to a boil, it's going to be ready. So we're going to keep putting this together, making these layers and getting everything right. I'm going to be pouring this over, but when we come back from the break, I want you to know that we are going to be giving away a chance to treat your favorite vet to dinner. So I want you to stick with us because you're going to learn more about that. And then I'm going to get in the kitchen and make a surprise for you and Chief Mel. So come back with us in just a few minutes.
Ask Vera is brought to you by Georgia Bank and Trust and Southern Bank and Trust.
Valerie Lively of Augusta writes, what recommendations do you have for observing Veterans Day? NowYou'reThinking.com has a list of 100 ways that you can thank a veteran. I've come up with my top 5 from this list. First one is discreetly pick up a veteran's tab at a restaurant. There could be nothing better than for them to be completely surprised when they don't get a bill for their meal. Secondly, display your American flag. Third, send a care package from Operation Gratitude, which will be full of treats and special things, nice letters. 4, offer your aisle or window seat to a veteran on a full flight. And then finally, teach your children about Veterans Day, how thankful we should be for their service, for these soldiers and what they've done for us. I recommend Veterans Heroes in Our Neighborhood is a great book to read with your young person. Think of something special to do on November 11th. You'll be glad you did. Valerie, I hope that answered your question, and I want to remind everybody that next Friday, November 13th, is Augusta Symphony Orchestra's Organ Spectacular. It's at First Baptist Church of Augusta. It's going to be fantastic. If you'd like some more information, go to soaaugusta.org. And if you've got a question for me, send it to askvera at nbc26.tv. Welcome back, and I'm having the best time with 2 of my favorite vets. Of course, my #1 favorite vet is my husband, Andy Kilpatrick, who served in the Vietnam War. But you know, I know many of you out there have vets that you want to do something special for, and hopefully these recipes today will be an encouragement for you to do something really special around the table with your whole family for Veterans Day. So while we were away during the break, General Foley we got the potatoes au gratin finished. We had all the 3 layers done. I poured that wonderful sauce with the onions and the milk and cream and all the different spices on top. And then we did a really pretty garnish on the top with alternating the sweet potato and the gold potato on there. So, you know, keep that in mind for any casserole to do something really unique on the top, because that's what shows. We put it on a sheet pan because it's probably going to boil over just a little bit, and it's in a 425-degree oven for about 45 minutes covered, and then you're going to take the covering off and cook it for about another 20 minutes. So now I've got a surprise that I'm working on. The guys don't know what I'm doing, but needless to say, chocolate is generally at the top of the list of favorites for, you know, for anybody in your family. So I've got a recipe for Milky Way cake. And while we were away, I got the cream, the butter creamed, a stick of butter, and I've got the sugar, and you've got a really nice fluffy combination. So now I'm going to start adding the dry ingredients to that, along with my eggs one at a time. And if you'll put those eggs into a measuring cup, you can pour them out one at a time instead of having to crack as you go. You just want to incorporate the egg into the mixture. But let me tell you a little bit about this recipe. Many of you know that I was a former home economics teacher, and I had a class when I taught in Madison, Georgia called Bachelor Living. And I had the cutest guys in that class with me. They just wanted to learn everything they could about cooking. And later, I would teach them things like how to hem a pair of pants and, you know, how to sew a button on and how to tie their necktie. And Rodney, whose recipe this is, actually joined the military and wrote me later to say that he was so proud that he already knew how to tie his necktie because he had learned it from Miss Vera. So Rodney, if you're out there in TV land, I'm making your favorite Milky Way cake today on the show. So I've got the flour, I'm adding buttermilk, and I'm actually going to put the soda in the buttermilk as I'm mixing it. So that's where the leavening for this recipe is coming from. You see, we've got a really nice creamy batter. I'll keep adding, and this is all-purpose flour. And the one that I made ahead, I actually used a hand mixer. So if you don't have a tabletop mixer, it can certainly be done with a hand mixer. I've melted my Milky Way candies with a stick of butter, and it actually calls for 4 Milky Ways. Yikes! But this is going to be so good, and the guys are going to love it. So I've melted those, and those are going to go into the batter as well. So just keep alternating. And then I've got some vanilla extract that goes in there too. And this is something that you could do several days ahead because actually the longer it sits, the better it tastes. So I've got my candy all melted, and I'm going to be incorporating that into this batter as well. So I want to suggest that you always use Baker's Joy when you're using a cake pan. So I'm going to finish this up during our break and put my pecans in. But I want to remind you that I'm doing a really great giveaway in just a few minutes, so you want to be sure to watch that. When we come back from the break, I'm going to surprise my 2 guests with a delicious cake. And when we get back together, we're going to put all of this together and start tasting some of this delicious food. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back, and guys, you have really done well. You didn't think you could do it.
I did.
Well, and you knew you could do it,
I
so
knew I
this
could do it.
is fabulous. So we have got a wonderful spread, and while we were away during the break, I got the cake finished. Those delicious, scrumptious Milky Ways were all melted and went into the bowl. Y'all didn't know you were going to get a special treat. And real creamy batter, I put that into a prepared pan with that Baker's Joy, and it's in a 325-degree oven right now, so I know that you smelled that, but don't worry, I made one ahead so you could have something to taste. And then the icing for the cake was in the microwave, so easy. You just melt everything, add your confectioner's sugar, milk, and vanilla, and you just beat it up. It pours on the cake very quickly, it sets up, and then it's just the easiest cake ever to ice. So you were nice enough to look at those drippings in the pan from that delicious pot roast and offer to make a gravy for us.
Well, it was easy enough to do that. My
It just,
pleasure.
I know, it just looked that great. So we might even smother that a little bit with the gravy before you even get started. And we took it out of the pan onto a platter, but you can see I've kind of artfully displayed everything on the plate. So we're going to get started plating some of this with all the different vegetables, and oh, it looks tender, doesn't
Oh,
it?
it's delicious. Look at this.
Oh gosh, and if you're just joining us, the
at
cut of
that.
meat was a chuck roast. That just looks great. And actually, I'm going to let you, Jeff, hold this plate while he finishes those vegetables, and then he's going to be putting the au gratin. But, you know, Tom and I have actually worked together on several occasions. He's such a talented chef, and just his expertise and what he did. I want to thank you for your service to our country, and I'm sure there's some people out there in the audience that have enjoyed your delicious food before. And then, of course, Jeff and I have been on many projects together along the way. He's done so much for our community. And if you're looking for a really great read on how to be a better leader yourself, I can highly recommend Rules and Tools for Leaders. I have read it myself. It's wonderful. He'll even autograph it for you. But Jeff, thank you so much for, you know, what you've done. I'll take that out of your hands and we can start another one. And the contest that we're doing is, if you want a chance to treat a veteran in your life to dinner, go to our Facebook page on VeryVera and post on our wall who your favorite vet is and why you think they're awesome. And they could win a restaurant gift card. So I want to encourage you to do that, because we're going to give 3 of these away. And it's a really nice gesture. And you know, guys, I think that this meal would suit not only a vet, but anybody, right?
Absolutely.
The cake, and I just can't wait to show you this. This is a Milky Way cake, and the person that actually gave me this recipe was a student, and he ended up going into the military. So, as I always say at VeryVera, no matter what you do it in good taste. I continue to think that I have very good taste in guests and friends with the 2 of you, and I want to hopefully have you join us again next weekend for another episode of the VeryVera Show. All right, guys, let's dig
Vera.
in.
Thank you very much.
Let's
Thank you for
dig
having
in.
us.
There you are.